is this different from what we were doing earlier? So a little bit of tutoring, right? And now we're in 6-on-6. So we want to set this up as real as possible. Okay, so I don't know, at our gym we have music playing just because it's barely ever quiet. It also kind of puts everyone in a nice mood. But we have some music, we have a live serve. Usually we'd have a whistle. Fail on Tama's part, didn't bring whistle. We're working off the whistle. And if you watch us give feedback, we try to keep too much distance. We try to keep some distance because in the game, I cannot stand here and coach my player. So I try to keep some distance. I might give them a cue beforehand and I'm watching. And so in what we talk about, not too different, but in how we do that, we want to let them, like Evie said, we want to let them fail a little bit. We want to let them compete. We want to let them figure it out themselves. So there is a component of what we do as coaches in the 6-on-6 setting. So I guess that's just my question to you. What are you guys doing when you're playing 6-on-6? What's the goal of it? And we could be doing a 6-on-6 drill, but that's more of a wash type of drill. So you're in there, you're giving the balls, that's different. But right now, when we get to this segment of our 6s, if you came to watch our practice, we'd all be kind of on the outskirts and we're celebrating and we're catching them doing it right. I love that phrase from Karch. So even if you have a nice hold, I'm over here, I'm gonna make eye contact and I'm gonna try to celebrate as much as I can. So anyway, that's kind of a little tidbit about the difference between tutoring and maybe 6-on-6 live drills.
What effect does frequency of augmented feedback have on the performance and retention of the motor skill? This is a very important thing. High frequency of feedback, this might be what we see in continuous feedback schedule. High feedback leads to greater performance in the moment. Okay? However, it does not necessarily facilitate retention. We want to taper off of the feedback. And so as we get to lower levels of feedback, this tends to facilitate increased retention of the motor skill. Okay? So we don't want to keep that feedback continuous the whole time. We want to fade it. We want to taper it off gradually. Maybe we'll apply some bandwidth feedback there. But the point is as the person gets more and more proficient as they go to the associative and autonomous stages of a motor skill, we want to decrease that frequency of feedback, augmented feedback, because that's what's going to facilitate long-term retention of the motor skill.
Some of the rhythm of feedback is important. So this is a thing to think through in your planning, your own rhythm of how you want to give feedback. But there's a frequency and then there's summary. So there's frequency, like maybe there's an athlete, this is a brand new skill for them. You're teaching someone to sprawl for the first time, something, maybe a middle blocker to set for the first time. We do that even at our level. Middle blockers will come in, I got a set? Yeah, you got a set. But first time, maybe the frequency is a lot more common, a lot faster. What you'll see from us a lot, especially athletes you've coached more often, you'll see more of summary feedback. So summary feedback might be after 2-3 reps, maybe 5. You're going to chunk that a little bit more. Let the athlete fail. We are always talking about how failure makes you better, but there's a lot of times we'll get to watch practice and I'm just like, just let them fail, like let them struggle, and then give that feedback after a batch. I think probably around a handful is most appropriate, but it might be a little bit of time, and then you can ask them a question. How's that going? How's your focus on your cue? Another one is bandwidth feedback. So bandwidth feedback is trying to give feedback plus or minus a certain success of the cue that they're working on. So if Tama is going to talk about holding a pass, maybe they're really struggling. They're holding it 0 out of 10 times. Okay, we probably need to give a little bit more feedback. But if they're 9, 8, 10 out of 10 times nailing that cue, we might give them a little more leniency. So plus or minus of like setting a goal for one another on that cue that you're working on, the piece that you're working on, looking at the bandwidth of that.